Tired of always being the pursuer in your romantic relationships? Want to flip the script and have women chasing after you for a change? The emotional pushback technique might be just what you're looking for. This powerful approach can transform your dating life by creating intrigue, sparking attraction, and making women work to earn your attention and affection. Understanding the emotional pushback technique. At its core, the emotional pushback technique is about creating a delicate balance of interest and challenge. It involves showing initial interest in a woman, then strategically pulling back to create emotional tension and curiosity. This push-pull dynamic taps into basic human psychology, triggering her desire to chase what seems just out of reach. The technique works by leveraging scarcity and unpredictability. When you're always available and pursuing hard, you risk coming across as needy or desperate. But by occasionally withdrawing your attention, you become more valuable in her eyes. She starts to wonder why you pulled back and feels compelled to regain your interest. It's important to note that this isn't about playing mind games or being intentionally hurtful. When done right, the emotional pushback technique simply adds an element of excitement and mystery to your interactions. It gives her the space to invest emotionally and pursue you in return. The psychology behind why it works. To fully grasp the power of emotional pushback, we need to understand some key principles of human psychology and attraction. Firstly, people tend to value what they have to work for. When something comes too easily, we often take it for granted. By creating small obstacles for her to overcome, you increase your perceived value. Secondly, humans are wired to seek closure and resolution. When there's ambiguity or uncertainty in a situation, it creates cognitive dissonance that we feel driven to resolve. By occasionally pulling back, you create that sense of unfinished business that keeps her thinking about you. The technique also plays on the psychological principle of reciprocity. When you show interest and then pull back, it creates a subtle imbalance. She feels compelled to reciprocate your initial interest and chase you to restore equilibrium. Additionally, the emotional pushback technique taps into our innate competitive nature. By positioning yourself as a bit of a challenge, you activate her desire to win your full attention and affection. This competitive element can be incredibly motivating and exciting for many women. Finally, the technique leverages the power of intermittent reinforcement. Studies have shown that unpredictable patterns of reward are actually more addictive than consistent ones. By being a bit unpredictable with your attention and affection, you keep her engaged and coming back for more. Implementing the technique effectively. Now that we understand the psychology behind it, let's explore how to actually put the emotional pushback technique into practice. The key is to strike a balance between showing genuine interest and creating intrigue through strategic withdrawal. Start by expressing clear interest and putting in effort to connect with her. This can involve engaging conversations, thoughtful gestures, or planning fun dates. You want to establish a baseline of mutual attraction and positive interaction. Once you've built some rapport and connection, it's time to implement the pushback. This doesn't mean ghosting or being cold. Instead, subtly dial back your effort and availability. Take a little longer to respond to texts. Be a bit less available for spontaneous hangouts. Keep conversations shorter and leave her wanting more. During this pushback phase, maintain a warm and friendly demeanor when you do interact. The goal isn't to seem disinterested, but rather to come across as busy and having a fulfilling life outside of her. This signals that while you like her, you're not overly invested or desperate for her attention. As she starts to notice the shift, she'll likely begin to pursue you more actively. She might text more frequently, suggest plans, or generally try to regain your full attention. This is exactly what you want. She's now chasing you. When she does chase, reward her efforts with renewed attention and enthusiasm. Then, after a period of reconnection, implement another subtle pushback. This creates a cyclical pattern that keeps things exciting and unpredictable. It's crucial to calibrate your approach based on her responses. Some women will chase harder when you pull back, while others may need more reassurance. Pay attention to her reactions and adjust accordingly. The goal is to create gentle tension, not push her away entirely. Common mistakes to avoid. While the emotional pushback technique can be incredibly effective, it's easy to misuse if you're not careful. Here are some common pitfalls to watch out for. Overdoing it. Pulling back too much or too often can backfire, making you seem genuinely uninterested or manipulative. The key is subtlety and balance. Being inconsistent, wildly swinging between intense pursuit and complete withdrawal will come across as unstable or game playing. Aim for smoother transitions. Neglecting emotional connection. Don't get so caught up in the technique that you forget to build real intimacy and vulnerability. The pushback should enhance your connection, not replace it. Using it on the wrong women, this technique works best on women who are already somewhat interested. Trying it on someone who's not into you won't suddenly make her chase. Forgetting to reciprocate, when she does chase you, make sure to reward her efforts. If you constantly pull away, she eventually give up. Being inauthentic, the emotional pushback should feel natural, not like you're following a script. Adapt it to fit your personality and the specific dynamics of your relationship. Pushing back at the wrong times. There are moments when full presence and support are crucial. Don't use the technique during serious conversations or when she's going through something difficult. Ethical considerations and potential downsides. While the emotional pushback technique can be a powerful tool in your dating arsenal, it's important to consider the ethical implications and potential drawbacks. Critics argue that any form of calculated emotional manipulation in relationships is inherently problematic. There's a valid concern that overuse of this technique could lead to trust issues or emotional instability in a developing relationship. If a woman feels like she can never quite pin down where she stands with you, it might create anxiety rather than exciting tension. Additionally, constantly implementing pushback can prevent the natural deepening of emotional intimacy that's crucial for long-term relationship success. There's a risk of keeping things perpetually in the chase phase without allowing real vulnerability and connection to develop. It's also worth considering how this technique might impact your own emotional well-being. Constantly monitoring and modulating your own behavior can be mentally taxing and potentially prevent you from fully being yourself in a relationship. Finally, there's the question of whether creating artificial scarcity is truly the best foundation for a healthy relationship. While it may be effective in the short term, a truly fulfilling partnership requires open communication, mutual effort, and genuine availability, balancing technique with authenticity. Given these considerations, it's crucial to find a way to implement the emotional pushback technique that aligns with your values and allows for authentic calm. Use it sparingly, rather than making emotional pushback your default mode. Save it for specific situations where you feel the dynamic needs a reset. This allows for plenty of genuine, unguarded interaction. Be honest about your feelings. While you might modulate your behavior, avoid lying about your interests or intentions. If you truly like someone, make sure that comes across even during pushback phases. Prioritize emotional intimacy. Make sure you're creating opportunities for real vulnerability and deep conversation. The excitement of the chase should enhance, not replace, genuine emotional connection. Communicate openly. If things progress to a more serious stage, be willing to have honest conversations about your feelings and relationship dynamics. Emotional pushback works best in early dating, not as a long-term strategy. Focus on self-improvement. Instead of seeing pushback as a technique to make her chase, view it as a natural result of having a full, engaging life outside of the relationship. Pursue your own passions and goals. Stay attuned to her needs. Pay attention to how she's responding emotionally. If your pushback is causing genuine distress rather than playful tension, it's time to adjust your approach. Be willing to be vulnerable. While maintaining some mystery can be attractive, don't be afraid to let your guard down and show your true self. Real intimacy requires openness from both partners. Implementing emotional pushback in real-life scenarios. To better understand how this technique plays out in practice, let's explore some common dating scenarios and how you might apply emotional pushback. Early texting stages. After a few days of frequent, engaging text conversations, deliberately slow your response time. Keep replies warm but brief. This creates space for her to wonder about you and initiate more. Planning dates. Instead of always being the one to suggest plans, occasionally mention you're busy or need to check your schedule. This gives her the opportunity to step up and pursue you. During dates, while being present and attentive, don't be afraid to engage with others or mention other aspects of your life. This reminds her that your world doesn't revolve around her. Physical intimacy. After a passionate encounter, give her a little space rather than immediately pursuing more. This builds anticipation and often leads to her initiating the next time. Defining the relationship. If she brings up the talk, don't immediately jump to lock things down. Express that you're enjoying things but need time to think. This often intensifies her desire for commitment. Long-term relationships, even in established partnerships, occasional emotional pushback can reignite the spark. Plan a solo trip or dive into a new hobby to create some healthy space. The key in all these scenarios is subtlety. You're not rejecting or ignoring her, simply creating small opportunities for her to invest more emotionally and pursue you in return. Developing the right mindset, successfully implementing the emotional pushback technique requires more than just following a set of rules. It's about cultivating the right mindset and inner confidence. Here are some key mental shifts to work on. Abundance mentality. Truly believe that there are many amazing women out there. This helps you avoid coming across as needy or overly invested in any one person. Self-worth. Recognize your own value and what you bring to a relationship. This inner confidence is incredibly attractive and makes the pushback feel natural rather than forced. Outcome independence. While you may hope things work out with a particular woman, don't tie your happiness or self-esteem to her response. This allows you to implement pushback without anxiety. Emotional control. Work on managing your own emotions so you're not tempted to over-pursue when feeling insecure. Stay grounded in your own worth. Patience. Understand that attraction and relationships develop over time. Don't rush the process or try to force outcomes. Empathy. Always keep in mind that the woman you're dating is a real person with her own complex emotions. Use the technique to enhance your connection, not to manipulate. Flexibility. Be willing to adjust your approach based on the specific woman and situation. There's no one-size-fits-all formula for attraction. By internalizing these mindsets, the emotional pushback technique becomes less of a calculated strategy and more of a natural expression of your confident, self-assured personality. Conclusion. The emotional pushback technique can be a powerful tool for creating attraction and encouraging women to pursue you. By strategically balancing interest with challenge, you tap into core psychological principles that spark curiosity and desire. However, it's crucial to implement this technique ethically and authentically. Use it as a way to enhance genuine connection, not as a manipulative game. Pay attention to how the woman responds and be willing to adjust your approach. Remember, the ultimate goal isn't just to make her chase you, but to build a fulfilling, balanced relationship where both partners feel valued and desired. When used thoughtfully, emotional pushback can be the first step towards that kind of deep, lasting connection. Mastering this technique takes practice and self-awareness. As you experiment with it in your dating life, stay true to your values and prioritize open communication. With the right mindset and approach, you can create the kind of exciting, passionate dynamic that keeps both partners engaged and invested in the relationship.